Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. In today's video, we're going to be making this small gift box treat box, and the size of this box, which ends up 5 3/4 by 2 3/4 at its widest point here, and I've made mine 2 inches high. You can actually cut all of the pieces you need for this out of one sheet of A4 or US letter cardstock. The box can be sat in that orientation or indeed in that orientation, so you can decorate accordingly, and it has a flap lid opening at the end like so. The box comes together quickly and easily, and it's, as far as the pattern paper is concerned, it's a good way of using up some of your smaller scraps of pattern paper. So let's put the project together. To make the front and back elements of the box, you'll need 6 squares which are 2 inches by 2 inches, and rather than draw my pencil lines on my base cardstock, I'm going to make one out of scrap offcuts which I'll then use as a template on my actual cardstock. So you can either go straight in on your base cardstock or make up a template as I'm going to do. The front and the back will each consist of 3 squares. So I have 3 2-inch squares here, and I've put a pencil line in diagonally on each from corner to corner. I'm going to have each square in this orientation. I'm going to put the top point of the square up to the central point on the square underneath. I'll stick these down with some glue because then I can keep this template if I want to make this box again at a later date. So let's make sure it's lined up at the back as well. And then I'm going to take my third template and add glue to this section. Now at the moment, we don't need to necessarily concentrate on the layering of our squares. If you are going to go straight in and make this from your base cardstock, just think about, as you put the piece together, how you're going to decorate. You might, for instance, want to have these 2 end squares on the outside and this central square actually underneath, or you might want to add it together in this orientation. So that's just something to consider when you go in and put your piece together on your actual base cardstock. So I'm quite happy with that. And what you should find is if you measure each of these sections, these small sections, they are 1 inch. Now I'm going to go in with my base cardstock. I've got my 6 2-inch squares, and I'm going to sit my base cardstock on top of my template, and I can use my template as a guide as to where the squares are going to be stuck, rather than putting pencil lines, etc., all over my base cardstock. And as I said, as I stick this piece together, I'm going to have it so that the central square sits on top of the 2 outer squares. I'll put my top and bottom squares in place, add some glue where I can see that the middle square is going to sit on the top of the top and the bottom squares, and then put this in place. So you'll do this twice, and this will give you the front and the back of your box. So here's my front and my back sections. For the side sections, you'll need 2 pieces. The first is 8 by 3, and this assumes that you want your box to be 2 inches deep. You can change the depth or the height of your box up to suit your particular needs. Along the short side, score at 1/2 and 2.5. Or if you're changing your height, you want to create a 1/2 inch glue tab on the left and a 1/2 inch glue tab on the right. Along the long side, we're going to score at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And into this piece, I'm going to add a finger notch, like so. And the second side section, again, will be to whatever width or depth your box is going to be. Mine is 3 inches, scored at 1/2 and 2.5. And on the long side, score at 1/2, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5 and 8.5. We'll start with the shortest piece, fold and burnish along the long glue tabs, and then you may, as you start to fold and burnish the remaining score lines, want to burnish them in the direction they're going to sit in on the box. So for instance, on this one, my opening is going to be in this top section here, with the flap coming in. Therefore, my notch section is going to be on this section here. So my first score line will be a valley fold. That will come up to a mountain fold. So that's going to sit in like that. The next one will be a valley fold. So we're here. The next one will be a mountain fold. And then the last one will be a valley fold. So this is going to sit effectively in there like so. So repeat that folding and burnishing with the top section as well. Once you've folded and burnished, we'll do our cutting. We want to separate this side, the long side section, to create our glue tabs. I'm going to cut up each of the score lines within the 1/2 inch glue tab, like so. You'll do that both sides, and then we'll take a wedge from the ends of these glue tabs. Now we will be manipulating the piece around these sharp corners, so do consider the shape of your glue tabs, and it might be that you want to make a wedge to start with, then you'll sit your piece on your front or your back panel and just see how the pieces fit around the piece, and then shape the glue tabs further if you need to. So we can now work on the longest piece. So once again, this is going to sit on the top section of the box. One end is going to be the tab, so that will fold in and be a mountain fold. That's going to come up to a mountain fold, like so. That's going to come down to a valley fold. So we're here. So the next one will be a mountain fold. We're at the top of this point. Therefore, the next one will be a valley fold. The next one will be a mountain fold. So we're now like this. So the last one will be a mountain fold for our glue tab. Have the piece, so the strips in front of you. I'm going to start by cutting away the bottom left and right hand sections. And my preference is to round off the corners of this tab. Rotate the piece 180 degrees and remove the bottom left and right hand corners as we did at the other end, and then I'm going to take a wedge to create the glue tab. This is where the two strips will join together. You'll then cut up each of the 1/2 inch score lines and create your glue tabs. This piece is obviously going to remain loose. This is the lid. You decide whether you want to leave these strips in or not. You might want your lid just to consist of the top element and the flap, or you may, as I did on this mock one, want to leave the two side sections in, so they just create an additional element to go down inside the box. So that's entirely your preference. I'm going to leave mine in. I will, as I did on the previous piece, just work my way along, cutting up each of the 1/2 inch score lines. I'm going to take a small wedge from the front of this one and from the back of this one, because this is my lid piece, and then just a slightly larger wedge from these ones so that the piece will fit around the box. Now we can work our way around, adding glue onto the glue tabs and manipulate the piece onto the front and the back panels. Make sure you've got your piece the right way up. So mine is going to sit with my two outer pieces towards the middle, and then that's going to stick on like so. Obviously these two pieces won't have any glue on it because that's the lid. Just slowly work your way around, adding your glue and manipulating your piece into place. I'm going to add it onto the first two smaller sections to start with. So I'm going to be working on this V here. Hold your cardstock in whichever way you find it easiest. They are quite small pieces. Obviously you want to take your time to try and get the piece lined up as much as possible. If you do find your pieces are not fitting slightly, check the shape of your glue tabs. So I can see that the shape of this one is slightly interfering with the top point here. So I'm going to just go in and reshape that, and then I can work my way around manipulating the piece into place. And if anything, you're better to have your side sections sitting slightly inside the panel if the piece is not quite coming together, because you can then, once it's glued, go in and trim away any of the excess on the front panel that might be sticking over the side panels. I'm going to just go in and burnish that down and just make sure that you're pressing down, you're not moving the tab, because everything will shift. So that piece has slotted in there quite nicely. So I'm going to continue that all the way to the end. Now what I'm going to do before I stick this last one in is I'm going to glue the second strip on. So now I'm going to add glue onto this long glue tab and this one at the same time, and again manipulate this into place. And now we can continue adding the remainder of the strip on as we did with the top half. That is all fitting on there really nicely. I'm happy with that. I'm going to fold my tabs over, move the lid completely out of the way, and then I'm going to add my glue on and sit my top layer in place. I'm going to sit this one on and I'm going to concentrate on one square at a time. So now that's roughly in place, I've got time to just go round and manipulate, and I can get my fingers in down to here, and if you needed to you can obviously use your score tool to go in and push pieces out. I'm quite happy with that. I've got a slight out of alignment here, but what I can do is once it's dry I can go in with my craft knife or my scissors and just cut along to cut that into shape. I'm not too worried about that. The lid will come in like so, and at this stage you can see whether you need to reshape any of the tabs on your lid. That is going to slot down in there, so I'm going to just take some more off of the back of here, so that's going to come and sit inside like so. So the box is effectively now ready for decoration, and you can decorate the box so that it sits in this orientation. So this would be the top and this is the front, for example, or indeed in this orientation. So this is the top and this is the front. I'll now get on with my decoration. I'll give you the number of pieces you'll need for your various squares. So for the front and the back, or the top and the bottom, depending on how you're going to have it orientated, you'll need 6 pieces, which would be 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. So that will sit on there like so, for instance. You'll then need 4 pieces, which would be for 1 2 3 4. Again, they will be 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. and then you would need 8 pieces to sit in these sections here, and they would be 1 3/4 by 3/4. Here's the finished box. I've added my decorative paper on, opening at the top like so, and as I said, you can have it so it stands up in this orientation, so you might want to add a sentiment or something onto the front here, or indeed you can have it in this orientation. A quick and simple project. So there we have our one sheet project for today. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.